Hello, you're watching Self-Reliant India on DD India and I'm Preeti. This is a show we get for you every day where we discuss different aspects of the economy which would help in achieving self-reliance and Atmanirbharta for the country. And today we'll be discussing how defense and Atmanirbharta or self-reliance can be taken together forward. We will let you know today the feat has been achieved by Defense DRDO, and let's acquaint you with this. The Defense Research and Development Organization, that is the DRDO, has developed an advanced Chaff technology to safeguard the naval ships against missile attack. Now, Chaff is a passive expendable electronic countermeasure technology which is used worldwide to protect naval ships from enemy's radar and radio frequency, that is RF missile seekers. The importance of this development lies in the fact that very less quantity of Chaff material deployed in the air acts as decoy to deflect enemy's missiles for safety of the ships. The development of this technology by DRDO Lab is another step towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. To talk more about it and how is that to be taken forward, we are joined in by guests. We are joined in by Admiral R.K. Dhawan. He's former Chief of the Naval Staff. We're joined in by Dr. S. Guru Prasad. He's former DG, DRDO. We're also joined in by Mr. Rudra Jadeja, member FICCI Defence and Aerospace Committee, and Mr. R. Madhavan. He is CMD HAL. We welcome all of you on the show this afternoon on Self-Reliant India. To begin with, Dr. S. Guru Prasad, I would want you to acquaint our viewers with the salient features of this technology. What is it that is, that will help this technology take forward the idea of Atmanirbharta or self-reliance to begin with?
Good afternoon, everybody. This Chaff technology, DRDO has been working for a long time for various applications, like for the tanks and aircrafts. It has been established and it is under use. But for the naval use, this is the first time naval Chaff capability has been put in. Chaff is basically a technology to deceive, to decept, and to so that the sensors in the seeker of the missile, incoming missile, gets deviated because what it sees is actually not the naval vessel, but the reflection from the Chaff. Okay. It is either going to saturate the sensor, or it is going to deviate so that the naval ship is able to dodge the incoming missile. This is the basic operating principle of this technology. It is basically reflection of the seeker, the RF seeker, whatever is there. It will get deflected, it will get deceived by this technology. Right. Most important thing in this technology is the timing has to be right. You have to deploy the Chaff at the right time, and the Chaff has to stay at that position for a particular amount of time, so that it is enough for the incoming missile to get deviated. The seeker will judge it as either as the vessel itself, or it gets deviated because it goes for the resultant reflection. So that is the basic technology in this.
All right, Admiral Dhawan, I would want you to elaborate more on what on the times today which we are seeing, because the caliber or the the might of any nation is gauged by the might of its armed forces, of its defense forces. How far is modernized defense equipment or modernized defense sector, how far is that crucial for instilling a sense of confidence in the armed forces?
Thank you very much, Preeti. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you, sir.
You've talked about the advancement in technologies, and I will talk about the advancement of technologies in the maritime sector.
Yes.
As you're aware that our warships are among the most advanced in the world, and at the same time, the maritime domain extends over a large area. The Indian Ocean region, which is our primary area of responsibility for the Indian Navy, and now the Indo-Pacific region, which is actually a confluence of two oceans. it is important that we have the best technology deployed in our warships. And particularly, it is required that we are able to defend our warships. And this is where the Chaff technology that we are talking about today actually gains prominence, because it is part of the anti-missile defense system of a ship. So we've had Chaff in the past, but of course, this is the first time that we are getting the indigenous rockets. And I must say it is congratulations time for the DRDO, for the Navy, and the Ministry of Defense. And it is another step ahead towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. And as I've said, in completing the indigenization of the fight component on board a warship, which is largely weapons and sensors. When a ship is under threat, let's say from an incoming missiles, there is very, very high levels of technology which needs to be deployed. It's a complete array of systems, the weapons and sensor integration which comes into play. We have the hard kill measures, which involve the surface-to-air missiles, which are fired against the incoming missile. And we have the soft kill measures, that is where Chaff comes in. And to actually decoy a radar seeker missile, which will be coming in, that is where the Chaff is deployed. And I think that the cutting edge of technology that the DRDO is getting into, as far as indigenization is concerned, will play a major role in strengthening the fight component in terms of weapons and systems, sensors on our warships, which is very, very essential, because it is underwater. You need these sensors which are above water, in the air, and in space. And it is a sensor to shooter integration which has to be carried out. So it is a very, very high level of technology that we are dealing with. And keeping in with the trends of the levels of technology that are coming into the maritime sector, I think that Indian warships also need to have the cutting edge of technology available. And this is where the partnership between the DRDO, the Navy, the industry, and of course the MOD comes in to make sure that ships of the future, which are being made in India, because we are very proud that nearly 41 ships and submarines are under construction in Indian shipyards. The effort is now to make sure that we increase the indigenous component so that future warships and submarines are 100% made in India.
Right. There is thrust of made in India and indigenization. Mr. Jadeja, when we talk of indigenization, the Prime Minister has time and again emphasized on Atmanirbharta. Now, he has talked of how ever since India became independent, it had great potential and ecosystem for defense production. But however, that was not tapped. How have times changed under the present regime?
Firstly, hello everybody, and great to be on the show. Let me tell you one thing. I think so. The clarion call that comes from the highest leadership gives the impedance which is actually required for industry, the DRDO, and the service headquarters and Indian MOD to sort of synergize their activity. Now, it is very important that the Atmanirbhar or a Make in India is just not a call. It's a thing which has to be made into reality on ground. And that can happen in various forums. So firstly, really heartening to know that DRDO comes out with a very world-class chaff and flare mechanism to work it. But that's a development. There is a need for the industry who will have to gear up to make sure that this particular so-called technological development translate into a viable product. And that itself is a situation which industry of India, the defense industry, is trying to work out. In our experience, we have seen that there is a huge gap, a huge technological gap, which DRDO is trying to sort of bridge to ensure a viable technological applications being brought to the defense applications. There is a process gap which Indian industry needs to sort of mature to ensure that such world-class products are able to be rolled out. There is also a knowledge gap, which also is an important aspect to be addressed while we are trying to address technology of this nature. So I think so this particular call helps every one of us to remain focused, get our synergies through, get our policies aligned to ensure that, yes, we are able to get as a Make in India or Atmanirbhar. And this is not a small talk. This has to be walked. It's a very difficult journey. A lot of investment needs to be made. A lot of risks need to be taken. And I'm sure it's a combined effort which will help us to sort of remain, focused and ensure that we succeed to create such systems as such. One of the example I just like to mention here is that I'm heading an organization for Kalyani Rafael Advanced Systems. So we have our strategies where we are going to bridge the time, because to learn about technologies, you need time and knowledge base. By having a joint venture partnership with the technological firms like Rafael, we have been able to reduce this particular time frame of development of the processes to make such world-class of products. So I'd say the great times ahead, a very enterprising times for Indian industry to make this as a reality.
All right, I'll take that forward to Mr. R. Madhavan. He's CMD HAL. Sir, welcome to the show. When we're talking of, positivity and optimism in achieving self-reliance, Atmanirbharta ahead, there has been a lot of concern about time delays in meeting the target. So, how is that to be addressed, and how important is that a factor?
A very good afternoon to everybody. First of all, let me congratulate DRDO for the new development that they have on the missile systems that they're developing. They are very strong in the missile, anti-missile and systems. They're one source wherein we can say that Atmanirbharta has to come in from the research and development that is done within the country. We do need to look into Atmanirbharta. Of course, this is a game changer for the country's defense, but we have to look into the fact that we should not be developing systems which are going to be outdated later on. So we have to see what the world is going forward with and where they are going. And also at the same time, instead of getting into manufacturing systems which are outdated, the industry also has to come on board at the time of development and also contribute during the development so that the latest systems are manufactured. So for this, though I'm a part of the DPSU, we have to bring in the rest of the industry on board so that the subsystems are developed and available within the country for the main platforms and the systems to be developed. As long as you're dependent on a foreign country for the subsystems and the component parts, self-reliance is just on paper and it will not be met. So we have to develop the industry to bring them on board so that remaining subsystems are also of Indian origin. Another thing that we have to bring in is that the development which is from the DRDO or Indian labs are to be given a preference, because there are lots of, at the moment the Atmanirbharta and Make in India schemes were given a boost by the government, there are a lot of foreign companies who are trying to enter from the back door by way of TOTs and the joint ventures and so many things. But the thing is, dependence for the kits and the components from a foreign source will make it the country dependent on a foreign source later also. So we have to keep ourselves aware of that, and we have to ensure that the industry comes forward and ensures that the developments made by DRDO and other such labs and the academia is made well use of, and so that the end products are available for the defense forces. And we should also ensure that they, other than that it is being manufactured in India, it should be contemporary and of world class.
All right, there could be dependence on foreign, continued dependence, in fact, on foreign sources. We'll take that point forward, but at present, we're heading for a short break. Today on Self-Reliant India, we're discussing defense sector and Atmanirbhar Bharat. How can they be together, taken forward in achieving self-reliance for the country? Stay with us. We'll be back in a short while.
Kitchen waste, green waste, dried leaves from the garden, which are a source of carbon.
The money we received from the government added to our savings all went into the rice mill. I was into athletics before going in for judo, which really attracted me. It is a wonderful sport for girls and very beneficial.
Namaste land.
مرحبا إلى الهند.
زري إنديا.
سلام إنديا.
Namaste India.
Namaskar Bharata.
Nous sommes l'Inde.
نحن هنود.
India.
ما هندي هستي.
Hindian.
Salam Hindustan.
We are India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching Self-Reliant India on DD India, and today we're discussing defense sector and the prospects of Atmanirbharta in this sector. We are joined in by Admiral R.K. Dhawan, he's former Chief of Naval Staff. We're also joined in by Dr. S. Guruprasad, former DG, DRDO. Also with us is Rudra Jadeja, member FICCI Defence and Aerospace Committee, and also Mr. R. Madhavan, CMD, HAL. Dr. Guruprasad, before heading for the break, Mr. Madhavan put forth an important point that we have to develop indigenous technology so that there should not be continued dependence on foreign sources. Now, a very important aspect of indigenization is research and development. Now, a foreign source, while sharing or while giving technology to a particular country, is also liable, to its home country. So, having said that, on our part, when we, a lot also has to be done to harness the technology and to initiate independent research and technology. How important is that, and how that has to be taken forward when we talk of indigenization of the defense sector?
Excellent. I think Mr. Madhavan made a right point. The call for Atmanirbhar is basically for research, technology development, and system development within India. Everything done here. Not you take the technology from outside and manufacture it and then use it. Still, you will be dependent because the core content of the technology will never be shared. It will be coming as one of the subsystems, key subsystems, which you will not be able to make it without understanding the technology. That is the key thing in all the important components, and even the systems that are being manufactured in India under transfer of technology. It is only know-how which is coming, and the key elements will remain with the principal who is giving the technology, and that is how they control. So I think this call from Prime Minister, and especially for this Atmanirbhar call, is a great thing, and India is going to make a lot of progress. Industry is gearing up, and the research also is gearing up towards this. So here, see, research is not a short-term thing. It is always a long-term. It is not related to a particular product design. We always entered into this kind of problem in the past, because we are always relating product design and technology development as if they are very closely matched, because our programs led to the research. That is how it went on for many years. But now DRDO is completely geared up. That is the reason you have seen in the last year so many missile launch tests carried out, because technology got matured, and to roll out into different systems, into platforms, it did not take much time. That is what is technology maturity. Now DRDO is in that grip. has matured many technologies, and now it is the time for industry to take on, use the technology, build systems, deploy these technologies which have been developed by DRDO. I think we are in the right direction, and academia also is joining hands in development of these technologies. And but still, it is a long road because we have to have state-of-art technology to be delivered by our armed forces. We cannot give the disadvantage of to the armed forces to fight with substandard or second-class or previous generation technologies. We need to give them the state-of-art technologies so that they are always up with the this thing. No, because the fighting of a battle or the battlefield, it is technology plays a very important role. Apart from that, our armed forces are fully geared up. They are great in valor, they are great in tactical knowledge, they are great in dedication, and their fitness levels, everything is great. No armed forces can match this. But at the same time, it is the responsibility of scientists and the academia and the industry to give these fighting forces the fitting and the state-of-art type of technologies. That is our responsibility of the scientific community and the industry. We have to rise to the occasion and develop state-of-art technologies. Elsewhere, whatever is there, the same level of technologies, we have to provide them. And in fact, our armed forces, they are very, very intelligent guys. I have worked with the naval officers on the naval projects. They are very intelligent. They are technically very sound. They understand. And in fact, they become part of our design team. Many times they contribute a lot. This may not be acknowledged to them, but at the same time, they are second to none in understanding technology. And if you give the technology, they will fully exploit it to the maximum level. So the call is great. The Atmanirbhar is the only way. We have to have design capability so that we have the complete control. Even if we import some of the subsystem, it doesn't matter. If suppose some supplier doesn't supply, you can always go to the some other supplier if you are having the design capability within the country. So that is what the Atmanirbhar is all about.
All right. Also, I'm told that there is paucity of time on part of Mr. Madhavan. So before you go, we would want a very, brief comment on, on encouraging entrepreneurship in the defense sector. Now, IDEX initiative was launched to encourage entrepreneurs, particularly in this sector associated with MSMEs and startups. And, to what extent is it getting positive results? And also through this platform, more than 50 startups have developed technology and also products for military use. So when we're talking of self-reliance, when we're talking of Atmanirbharta, Make in India, also, encouraging entrepreneurship in defense sector, would that also help in the future, in the longer run?
Yeah, we have been a pioneer in that. In fact, for IDEX as well as DIO, that is Defense Innovation Organization, HL has put in the seed capital of 50 crores. And we have got more than 50 new entrepreneurs and startups on board for this. And we have various challenges that we keep giving, and the 5th round of challenges are now being analyzed. So we are into it because we feel that the new technologies, especially the artificial intelligence and the new sensor technologies, these are areas where it is much faster and much more innovative when we introduce these concepts into the startup system, because they are youngsters who can do it much faster than a big organization like DRDO or HL or any such organizations. And they come up with very innovative solutions. So we have been with them. In fact, many of our projects, we have already partnered with them in many cases, and we feel that's the way forward. And this is not only in India, it has been done in America and many of the other countries where there are startups and startup incubation centers where they put in the challenges and they get the solution out of that. And we do give financial support to them during the startup and the development and type approval phases. So this is how we are supporting them, and we will see that in the future we will continue to support those startups. So this is one of the way of meeting the requirements of fresh R&D, especially since R&D budget is limited. We feel that it's a cheaper alternative to go to the startups than through big organizations where the overheads are also higher. And second thing is that we get a lot of youngsters involved in the business of development, research and development for the defense forces.
All right. Also, very quickly, we want you to talk more about the road ahead when we talk of self-reliance and we talk of Atmanirbharta and the defense sector. There's immense scope that has to be tapped and the way forward.
See, Atmanirbharta was brought in, let us say, a year and a half back. So we can't expect that overnight we will 100% it will become indigenous content, but it's a way forward. So initially there will be some dependence on foreign sources, which we have to live with it. But the thing is that you have to continuously reduce the dependence on them, because the technologies offered by these outside OEMs will not be, first of all, up to date, and will be always a generation behind. Second thing is that dependence on them during a critical period or emergent situation, we will find difficulties in getting the equipment serviceable and in fighting fit order. So we have to depend only on our own sources, but it cannot be done overnight. But we feel that over a period of time, we should very quickly shift from dependence on foreign OEMs to Indian manufacturers and Indian R&D. So that is one area. For this, again, as I said, a lot of industries have to come forward. We are also looking at how we can partner with Indian industries for developing R&D and for developing the infrastructure for production of all platforms and items required for the defense forces.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Madhavan, for joining in with your inputs on the show this afternoon. So that was Mr. R. Madhavan telling us more about the road ahead, and also when we talk of defense sector and Atmanirbharta, CMD HAL. And at present, we're heading for a short commercial break. We will still interact with our panelists. Stay with us. We'll be back after a short while.
Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in Middle East countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now. The changing world of news. Headlines that you wake up to. News that shapes your day. Stories that matter to you. The latest and most accurate updates. A fresh start to a new day. The breakfast news, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. on DD India. Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in Middle East countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching Self-Reliant India on DD India, and today we are discussing this feat which has been achieved by DRDO. It has developed an advanced shaft technology to safeguard the naval ships against the missile attacks. We're joined in by guests. We're joined in by Admiral R.K. Dovan. He is former naval chief. We're joined in by Dr. S. Guru Prasad, former DG DRDO, and Mr. Rudra Jadeja, member FICCI Defence and Aerospace Committee. Admiral Dovan, when we began the show, Dr. Guru Prasad explained us the technology, but I would want you, as a former naval chief, you would also bring in more valued inputs as to how important is this technology to further enhance our naval services, because our Indian Navy, because this is the feat which has been achieved is an upgradation of the shaft technology. I would want you to elaborate more and acquaint our viewers more about this technology and how far will it further strengthen our naval forces.
This is indeed a great breakthrough in terms of indigenization of the shaft technology. Weapon systems out at sea are highly technological intensive, and we are up against all kinds of threats, whether it's from the air, whether it's from the surface or underwater. When we look at the aerial threats in terms of incoming missiles, which is one of the most potent threat to a warship, that is where a warship has to be equipped and armed with technology so that it can carry out the anti-missile defense. And in meeting that threat, there are a series of actions that are set into motion. It may not necessarily be by that ship alone. It may be because when warships travel, when warships move, they move in formation and they provide an overall defense to that formation. So the first thing that comes in the way is that you have something called the surface-to-air missiles, which are fired, and those are the hard kill measures against any incoming missile, which is a radar seeker. What we are looking at today in terms of what the DRDO has developed in terms of the shaft rockets are the passive measures or the soft kill measures for an incoming missile. What this does is that these are basically rockets which are available on launchers on board ships with fibers in them, and these fibers are coated with aluminium, zinc, sometimes even silver. There is a complicated procedure by which the exact amount which needs to be fired at different distance, and a pattern gets created by the shaft launchers and by the shaft system. And as you are probably aware, that what the DRDO has developed is rockets at different ranges, the long range, the medium range, and the short range. So what a ship does is that it fires the shaft in a particular pattern, which creates a radar echo, and that is what deceives or decoys the incoming missile, along with a host of other measures. This will not be the only measure which will be carried out, and there will be other measures in terms of how the close-in weapon systems, the incoming missiles, the electronic countermeasures, as well as the shaft. But the shaft plays a major role in terms of the soft kill measures in carrying out the decoying. And these are patterns which are fired. These are fired at an appropriate time. They're fired at regular intervals. It is the complete formation of the ships which fires the shafts so that the decoying of the missile takes place in a particular direction. I would also like to take on the aspect related to the technology and the indigenization and what has been happening between the Navy and the DRDO. As you're all aware, the blueprint for the future Indian Navy is firmly anchored on self-reliance and indigenization, or Atmanirbharta and Swadeshi Karan. And this is in keeping with the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister of an Atmanirbhar Bharat. The Navy has actually been doing this for decades now, where efforts have been put in that our naval designers have been designing, and our Indian shipyards, both public and private, have been building warships and submarines for the Indian Navy. And today, we have transformed ourselves from a buyer's Navy to a builder's Navy. When we look at the technology that has to go into a warship or indeed a submarine, it has to be the cutting edge of technology. because warships and submarines, when they have to fight wars of the future, they need to be equipped with technologically advanced weapons and sensors. This is where the partnership between the Navy and the DRDO comes in, which has been there for over decades. The Navy has always considered DRDO as a partner. Many officers are appointed actually ab initio with the projects, and we work out together as to what are the critical technologies we would require on board our ships and submarines, let's say 10, 15 years from now. DRDO works on those technology along with the Navy, and this is where it is important that we induct technologies, if required, from the other sectors. It has to be technology induction. It could be from the public-private partnership, but cutting-edge technology needs to be inducted, and the technology needs to be inducted in time, because we cannot have a warship or submarine being launched or commissioned and the technology or the weapon system or sensors not available. This is where it needs to be a very, very close interaction between the DRDO, the Navy, as well as the industry and the production agencies. And today, there is a major role that the public and private sector industry plays, because technology is moving very fast and it gets outdated very, very quickly. And therefore, we all have to work together to make sure that we have the cutting edge technology which is available, and it is available in time, and it is in partnership with the public and private sector, so that we take transfer of technology as required and thereby move towards, as I said, 100% of weapons and sensors to be made in India. That is when we will achieve the complete Atmanirbharta and Swadeshikaran, self-reliance and indigenization. And the Chaff launches which have come in by the DRDO is certainly a very, very important step to give the warships the anti-missile defense capability as far as the soft kill measures are concerned by using the Chaff launches.
All right, Mr. Jadeja, I would also want you to explore the prospects of the involvement or, bringing in the private sector when we talk of indigenization and we talk of Atmanirbharta. Supporting research and development and also the manufacturing capabilities of the private sector, the design, and, put all this together. How can private sector play an important role in further taking forward Atmanirbharta and the ambition of self-reliance?
Yeah, if we look at it, we just mentioned about the startup.
Yes.
The ecosystem that needs to be startup has to be at the grassroots level. And I think so through the FICCI, I think so the decision maker, the bureaucracy has been on a listening mode, and they have been sort of formulating and twitching the policies and making an enabler environment to ensure a participation of the defense industries, not only merely as a production and a service support industry, but now pitching in to get in the innovation and our research and development coming in. In fact, it has gone a step ahead. In fact, as late as yesterday, there was an announcement being made where there will be a direct procurement of various innovation and technologies from the startups only. So there is a budget which has been sort of allocated. So what I'm trying to mention here is that this policy enablers are the right incubations which will set the powerhouse of the Indian, the capabilities which is needed in all sectors. So R&D essentially got confined to DRDO, but I'm sure DRDO has to develop systems, and there has to be various building blocks. And those building blocks of technologies can come in from the private sector R&D, which essentially is now being encouraged. There are mechanisms where currently policies of Make 2 by the DRDO, by the MOD, has enabled private sector to design, develop a missile system. Now that's a huge step that has been taken. We all know that this is not a short call. It is a marathon which all of us, the DRDO, the service headquarters, the private sector industries, also needs to run and ensure that we fill in the gap what the services need to keep themselves abreast in terms of cutting edge technology, as what Admiral was rightly mentioning. And this can achieve not because only Indian industry is trying to work out. That's the reason, in fact, many of the industries do form joint ventures to make sure that the learning process is reduced, the time reduces, and we are able to bring up ourselves at par so that the absorption of technology from DRDO takes to the private industry. So I think the various measures are coming in as a marathon, and I'm sure we should not be expecting immediate results in terms of short term, but yes, as a long term, Atmanirbharta is absolutely on a horizon, and these are very definitive steps in terms of research and development, production and output coming in from the industry's support also.
All right, we'll talk more about it also, but at present we're heading for a short break. You all are watching Self-Reliant India, and we're discussing the prospects of Atmanirbharta in the defense sector with our panelists. Stay with us, we'll be back in a short while. Welcome back after the break. You're watching Self-Reliant India. Admiral Dhawan, when the Prime Minister talked of Atmanirbharta, he said that Atmanirbhar Bharat is not inward looking, but in fact it would further make India capable, and also it will boost global peace and economy. Now, given the the geopolitical situation, the geopolitical changes which are being witnessed, would you say that encouraging Atmanirbharta, encouraging self-reliance in defense will not only give more more strength to the nation, but at the same time it will also strengthen India's strategic partnerships and also strengthen India's role as a security provider in the Indian Ocean region, net security provider in the Indian Ocean region?
I think that is absolutely right, because as the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned, that Atmanirbhar Bharat is certainly not inward looking. It is outward looking as well, because what is intended is that India, with its industrial base, with its vast industrial base, and all the military technologies that are being built in country and which will be built, will actually make it an industrial military hub. And when that happens, India would be in a position to be a net security provider to all the friendly countries in the region. This is already happening in some areas where we have the capability, but it will certainly happen as we go along. It is important to understand also that in this quest to get in technology and to equip our armed forces with the cutting level and cutting edge of technology, we will have to actually get the private sector also involved. So it will be a partnership between the armed forces at one end, the DRDO at one end, and the public-private partnership of the industry, so that we can stay in step in terms of cutting edge technology, which is required in our armed forces. And when we start actually meeting the requirements of our armed forces, we can then also look at meeting the requirements of the other countries, because Prime Minister has also talked of Sagar, security and growth for all in the region. And when we talk of Sagar concept, it is Indian Ocean region and even beyond. We have talked of neighborhood first, where we looked at the immediate neighbors around India and how we can support them. But a very important aspect is that technology till a few decades ago was first available in the armed forces, and I'm talking globally, and then it would move into the private sector. Today, it is a change, it is a difference, where technology has come into the commercial and the private sector and then gets adopted into the armed forces, at least in some areas that we are seeing of artificial intelligence, because the future wars are going to be cyber wars. Future wars are going to be information related. They will be technology related. That is where it is important that we involve the public and the private sector so that we can arm our armed forces to the best level, because the future warrior, whether it's the soldier, sailor, and airman, needs to be empowered with the cutting edge technology so that they can fight and win wars of the future by leveraging on technology. And that will be the key as to how the industrial hub, the military industrial hub in India needs to be developed with the support of the industry, with keeping in mind what the armed forces require, what the DRDO can do, where do we need to get in technology additional in terms of transfer of technology so that we can start making this here, so that this whole juggernaut of Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliance and indigenization is actually taken to the next level, where we can not only equip our armed forces to fight and win wars of the future, but we can also look after our neighbors, our friendly countries in the region, to become a net security provider in the region.
Yes, indeed. I'll take that forward to Dr. Guru Prasad. We're approaching towards the fag end of the program, and we would very quickly want closing comments from all of you when we talk of the road ahead, when we talk of, in a nutshell, what is it that likely is to be ironed out in the near future, and how is it, because, all through the show we've been talking about how the dream of Atmanirbharta cannot be achieved overnight. It is a long process, but the beginning has been made. A battle is half won when it is well begun. So when we talk of the road ahead for Atmanirbharta and defense sector together, what is it likely? Dr. Guru Prasad, to begin with you first.
I think Admiral Dhawan very rightly, he put all the elements together. The capability is not just individual technologies of weapons, sensors, and other things. How do we integrate all of them at a national level? That is what becomes important. The network-centric warfare capability, that is what is armed forces is looking forward, and technologies are looking forward. This is where the technology can flow from the civilian domain to military domain. This is where artificial intelligence and all this, the neural networks and other things have already come in they started in the universities. This research started in the universities, and then industry has started using it. So some of those technologies can flow back to the defense, and that is what is happening in US, and that is what will happen here also. So I think India is in a good level even in these technologies, and we will be leveraging how to network better the sensor networks, the network of the different commands. I think that will be the future. And apart from the individual top-class technologies, weapons and sensors and other things, the network-centric capabilities also, that is the future. I think he concluded it very well. Atmanirbharta is not like another panelist also made it. It is not overnight. It is a system is important, the process is important, and then the things will happen. This is the right direction. Country is moving in both in technology development as well as in various, how do we synergize various forces in this domain. I think we are in the right direction, and we will have a great future with this Atmanirbharta call that has been given.
All right, Mr. Jadeja, would you also second that?
Yes, yes, absolutely, because it's just a matter of time. And as I just mentioned, that all the right things are happening, right from policy, ecosystem development to investments by the DRDO, by the private sector industry. And it's just a matter of time that we need to have a multi-pronged strategies. There's no one-fit-all solutions that we will not import any technologies. It's still a far call that we need to really take. There will be certain technologies which we'll have to depend so that the services do not sort of compromise on their operational capabilities as such. And I'm sure this is the combination which will take us to the next steps of to get regional security, being a defense exporter, and also bringing a lot of value to ensure that we are Atmanirbhar.
All right, Admiral Dhawan, your closing comments on the show, the ambition of Atmanirbharta, defense sector, and also the role of India in the Indo-Pacific region. Put all this together.
Well, I would say that India is on a threshold of transformation as far as getting into the high levels of technology as far as its armed forces are concerned. The armed forces will have to be joined together, firstly, because no single service can hope to fight and win a war in the future. And since wars are going to be technology driven, the Army, Navy, and Air Force will have to fight joint battles. When we talk of joint battles, we are talking of multi-spectral data fusion. We are talking of high-speed data links. We are talking of sensor-to-shooter integration. And we are talking of multi-dimensional capability to have a network-centric armed forces. To achieve that, it is very, very high levels of technology, including artificial intelligence and information and cyber warfare, which will play a major role. To do that, we will certainly have to work together with the DRDO, with the industry, with the armed forces, so that we can actually be Atmanirbhar by being Atmanirbhar as well as doing Swadeshikaran, self-reliance and indigenization. India has tremendous technological capabilities. We just need to make sure that we work together, we put everything together, and we put together this in time. Because if you are delayed in getting technology together, it's going to be outdated before we realize. Yes. So we need to empower, as I said earlier, our soldier, sailor, and airmen, the Army, Navy, and the Air Force, with the best level of technology together so that we can fight and win wars of the future. And this can be done when we have all our weapons and systems and sensors 100% made in India. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, all three of you, for joining us this afternoon on the show. Thank you, Admiral Dhawan. Thank you, Dr. Guru Prasad, and thank you, Mr. Jadeja, for sharing your insights on the show. So those were our panelists talking about the times ahead. Yes, there are tremendous opportunities, there are tremendous capabilities and avenues, and there is this need to tap onto these to ensure self-reliance or Atmanirbharta in the defense sector. With that, we end this edition here. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.